Thanks, Kimberly. And hello, everyone. I'm just going to give you a guided walkthrough for all your submissions for the GPF. So for starters, I'm just going to give a brief overview of what we've been doing since 2022. And so ORCID's Global Participation Fund was launched in order to promote equitable participation in underserved regions. And so the green markings here, the countries that are shaded are the where we have had grantees so far. And in terms of funding, we've given out almost 500,000 US dollars, and we have been supporting 26 grantees. So in terms of the countries that have been represented, we have 17, and these are spanning Africa, Asia, America, and Europe. So apart from that, in terms of the breakdown of the grants that have been awarded, we've had 19 community development and outreach grants, as well as 7 technical integration grants. And in terms of the funding that has been given per grantee, it has been between 6 and 20,000 US dollars. So I think it would be helpful also to know what stood out about the past and current grantees, even as you prepare your applications. And I think one of the most important things is that complete applications really demonstrate that impact that the projects will have on the focus communities. And most importantly, they need to feed into the objectives of the GPF. So if you're unclear on that, please do go back and read about the two different grant programs and see what the objectives are before you submit something that isn't eligible. Secondly, the projects provide a multiplier effect, which has both direct and indirect impact in the long run. So what we're trying to do is to have very impactful projects that also, in the long run, they're also sustainable, and they're also they go on to have a multiplier effect. Thirdly, demonstrating value for money in the applications with efficient use of resources. So what you want is to be able to show how the money from the grant is going to help you to not just not just implement the project, but see how that the funding is being used efficiently. Lastly, demonstrated track record of success with similar projects. So we want to be able to trust that the projects that you're doing or that you hope to do are projects that will be successful because it's things that you're used to doing, things that you've been working in the same space and you're able to connect to our project, and also in some cases it's able to connect to work that you're already doing in a different space. So in terms of grant monitoring and evaluation, so we have established 7 evaluation criteria to determine which grantees are most likely to have the largest impact on the fund objectives. And I've listed the 7 here, and this is a picture of our rubric, the rubric that we use when we're scoring. And I think it would also be great if you would want to take a look at that just to see how you can improve your projects. There's also a link in the presentation, a link to the rubric, just so you can take a look at it. But for instance, if you would want to submit an exemplary project, you would be looking at, for instance, you're looking at in what way would you be able to tell that that the application is exemplary. So here it would say the project is highly targeted towards this group in specific ways that demonstrate a distinct understanding of the fund target group. So the proposers have demonstrated specific successes in benefiting this group with similar projects in the past. So that would just be an example of what an exemplary project would look like under this criteria of benefiting the fund target group. So this is something that you can take a look at in your own time. But basically, these are the 7 criteria that we use when we are evaluating your applications. And basically each criterion will be rated on a scale of 0 to 4. So 0 would mean that there is insufficient evidence, and 4 would mean that it's an exemplary project. So in terms of the process, I will take you through a step-by-step process for this. So I'm going to share the link to this, but after you log into your Proposal Central profile, and this is the link that will take you to that, this is the screen that you see. and it shows the proposal sections on the left, and your name is up here on the right. But other than that, I will take you through the step-by-step process. So when you want to start a new proposal, you start by going to this link, which will be shared um, it will be shared with the application instructions, and you also have access to it. But so you go to the link and you click the Submit a GPF Proposal button. So this action is going to prompt you to log into the Proposal Central portal. And after that, you sign in with your credentials, or if you don't have an account yet, you click the Need an Account link, and that's what will help you to create an account. So if you don't have an account yet, just give me a second. If you don't have an account yet, oops. If you don't have an account yet, you need to create one. And how do you do this? For starters, you need to go to this link here, the proposalcentral.com. And then you have to go to the applicant or awardee tab, and you click need an account, and then this is what is going to pop up. And so you make sure that you create an account. So yeah, it will give you the instructions and how you do that. So then your username and or email address in combination with the password that you create is what will help you to get into the Proposal Central portal. So after you create your new account, the system is now going to display your current professional profile. So once you're inside this Proposal Central portal, what happens is that this is the screen that you're going to see, and there'll be all these different tabs. But what's important is that you go to grant opportunities, because Proposal Central also houses other different institutions and different proposals that are being run by those. So you go to grant opportunities, and then you search for ORCID up here. And this is what is going to pop up. You see my name here, Lambatembo, because I'm I'm the one who manages this program. And then you go to apply now, which is that big blue button on your right. After this, you don't have to do it all in one sitting. You can log out and come back, but at any time, you need to make sure that you click save, just to make sure that all the information you've entered at any given time has been saved to your within your profile. So yeah, if you want to return to the save proposal, you log in with the credentials that you use at the start of the proposal. And if it's necessary, you can click on the home tab to see a list of your proposals if you have more than one. And you can also just click on the identifier here, and this will take you to the proposal that you have been working on. In terms of the proposal sections, we have 8 distinct sections that you need to complete. And we're going to go through them one by one. The first one is the proposal title and amount. So this is where you're entering, the name that you've come up with, that you will name your proposal. And always make sure that you click save before you hit next, just to make sure that you have saved all that important information. After that, you'll need to enter more information regarding the grant program. Remember, we only have 2 distinct grant programs, so you need to select which one you're applying for here. So you just click there. On the how much funding you're requesting, you just enter the actual numbers of the amount that you're requesting. And remember that it's in USD and it's not exceeding 20,000 US dollars, because that is the cap of the funding that we give out. And also, you don't need to worry about explaining this, because there'll be a later stage where you can attach a detailed budget in the attachment section of the proposal. So here, if there are any additional funding request notes, you can enter some information here, but that's only 200 characters, so it's really up to you, but that's an optional field. There's also a privacy policy acknowledgement here. You just need to make sure you read it. And once you have read it and acknowledged it, please click there. So make sure you accept it before you continue, otherwise you will not be able to move forward. Yes, then you click the next button to move to the next stage. But a tip here is that any fields that have a red asterisk are required. So even if they're required, the fields don't need to be completed in one sitting, in order to enable you to navigate to other sections of the proposal. So if any fields with the red asterisk are not completed, you will get an error at the end when you're trying to validate your application, and you will not be able to submit the proposal until all of these validation errors are addressed. So for section 2, this is the organization or institution and context. This is very important. I think it's best if you complete this section as early as feasible, because what happens is that if your institution is not in Proposal Central yet, it will need to be approved before, like you can't submit your application until it's been approved. So, but you will still be able to work on it. You just won't be able to submit it until the actual approval from Proposal Central. So in this section, you will only include information about the organization that is applying for the grant. And also very important to note is that grants may only be awarded to nonprofit organizations, NGOs, or government entities, and they do not need to be a current ORCID member. So whether you're a current ORCID member or you're not, you can still apply, but it has to be an institution. It can't be a for-profit organization. Also, these are not research grants, and therefore these cannot be awarded to individuals. We only provide funding to organizations. And if you need any more information on this, you can find it, you can follow this link and it will take you to the frequently asked questions. So in terms of the institution profile, this is something that you can enter the information from here. There's a tab here that says institution profile. So you can put in the institution name and do a search, and the institution that has been an institution that is already within the Proposal Central database is going to pop up here. So yeah, so you can enter partial information just so you can make sure that you don't miss out on the actual name that is registered. You can also omit the institution city in the form, because sometimes you find that it has been registered with or without that. So just to make sure that you get the results, you can just put the partial information in there. So when it does pop up, you can just select it and you'll be able to move on in the stage. But if the institution is not showing, make sure that it's not showing something like this, where it says 1 to 25 of 100 entries, because then maybe it was just hiding in the search results. Also, if the information is too specific, like I said, if, for instance, you say University of Zambia in Lusaka, just leave out the Lusaka bit, just so you can see more institutions that are to see whether the University of Zambia bit has been registered already. So make sure that it's not too specific when you are doing the entry, just so you can get more of the results. So if you still do not see your institution, you will need the institution to be added to the Proposal Central system. So what we recommend is that you request assistance from Proposal Central, or you can follow instructions to make a request through the system. And in terms of reaching out to them, if you are sending an email, you can email them at pcsupport@altam.com, or you can use this phone number here. And if you're in the US, you can use that phone number, but most likely this is the best way to do it. Or you can manually add the institution. But what we do recommend is that you just request assistance through this support email address. So in terms of the required fields for ORCID grant proposals, what you need is the institution legal name. Also, you need to know who the authorized institution representative is. And sometimes, in many cases, that's the PI of the project. And you need to make sure that you include the name, position, or title, and the email address of this, the person who's authorized to make the grant proposal. And also make sure you include the institution address. And yes, if necessary, you can always return to this proposal, to the proposals tab if you need to make any edits. So just more information that is needed is the website, also the organization identifier and type. We're quite flexible here, but if there's a national organization identifier, for instance, or maybe a ROR ID, social media profile, all these different types of identifiers, just make sure that you put the type of the identifier and then you fill in the actual identifier that is associated with the organization. And then lastly, if the organization does receive the grant, we will need to know in advance who the signing official would be. So we would need their name, their professional title, and their email address. So this needs to be entered at this early stage, in case in the event that the funding is given to the organization. And then section 3 is the principal investigator. So in this section, you need to provide information about who you are, who the principal investigator for this proposal is. So the information that was already in the professional profile could automatically populate itself here if you did have information in there. But here, the only information that is required about you is your name and your email address. Other information included in the profile isn't going to be considered as part of your proposal. So you can edit that if you need to, but basically that's the only information that we would need. And in terms of the next steps after that, this is optional, but you can enable other users within your institution to access this proposal. And what that means is that you just need to give them the right permissions. You can put their name there and put the permissions that they have, and the email address is also there. But sometimes these other users already have a profile within Proposal Central. So what you need to do is just to give them proposal access by entering the user ID or email and then finding the user. And so if you decide to enable other users, like I said, all you need is the email address or the Proposal Central user ID in order to find them. And the type of permissions that these people might have are administrator level, where they have full control of the proposal, or edit, where they can just edit the proposal, but they can't delete it. And then the view level permissions, where they can just take a look at the proposal, but they can't make any changes. And always remember to click save before you go to the next section. So for section 5, this is the proposal narrative. And this contains the information that will be used when evaluating your proposal. So once again, there's a link here to the GPF grant program frequently asked questions. And this has additional information that you could use. So make sure that you complete each section in this, each question in the section. And a red asterisk will show that the answer is either required or whether it's optional. But just remember that the red asterisk shows that you will be asked to validate that information. And basically the character limits listed will include the spaces that you use as well. So for section 6, this is just the attachments that you will need to add to your proposal. So you can submit any attachments that will either explain your proposal better, and this is also where you attach the copy of your proposal budget. So all you do is you click the blue Attach Files button, and you can then upload the different documentation that you think is going to be helpful. And then for section 7, this is the attestation. And in this section, you will read and confirm the attestation statement. So make sure that in this case, you're just reading and confirming. And then for section 8, this is very important. So in this section, you perform a validation to make sure that there is nothing missing from your proposal. So by clicking the validate button on this page, the system is just going to check your proposal for any missing or incomplete information. So anything that is missing will be listed at the top after the validation. So all you do is just navigate to the sections that need your attention and then click on the names in the proposal sections area on the left side of the page. So when your proposal passes the validation stage, if there are no errors or omissions that are listed after you validate, then you just click next, and you'll then be able to go to section 9. So in this section, this is just where you are able to print your proposal. So you can then save a PDF of your proposal by clicking the blue print proposal button. And lastly, you are now at the finish line. The submit section is the final step of the proposal process. So do not forget to review your proposal before you click the submit button, because after this, you will not be able to get it back. And also a reminder that please just only submit one proposal per round, as you could potentially disqualify yourself if you put in more than one application. And in terms of technical issues, Proposal Central support team can be reached at the email address that was provided there, as well as the phone number for any countries outside of the US. And in the US, this is the number that is used. And also just important to note, the team is available from Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time in the US. And of the last day for submitting your proposals, this funding round closes on the 24th of May. So you have all the links. I know they will be shared with you, but that is the end of my presentation, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Lambe, for that great presentation. Um, as Lambe mentioned, we've got plenty of time for questions, and some have already come in, but I invite anyone with questions to go ahead and submit them via the Q&A box, or you can pop them in the chat here. One of the questions that we received quite a bit at registration and today is, can I resubmit a previous proposal that I submitted to this fund if it was rejected?
That's a great question. So if that's the case, I would suggest that you take a look at the feedback that was given, and once you work on your proposal, you can resubmit the same one, but just make sure that you strengthen it as much as possible before you make that submission.
And then Lambe, can you remind us how feedback is shared with rejected proposals?
So it depends on the type of rejection it is. So if it's an ineligible submission to start with, that will happen pretty early in the it will happen pretty early in the cycle. So what happens is that you will receive an email explaining that your application is ineligible for one reason or the other, but that is explained within your within the email that comes. But if it's not at that early stage, if you've gone through the two review stages, then you will receive the feedback a little later, because then it would have um, questions and comments from the two different reviewers that look at each single application. So that type of feedback is different, because in that case it's more detailed. It's talking more about it's not about whether the application was eligible. So it did go through the first the first stage of sifting of the applications, but for one reason or the other, it hasn't made it to the final stage. And that is, so then you receive the feedback a little later, but there's an explanation from the two different reviewers what exactly could be improved, or what you could do differently for you to, in case you want to resubmit your application.
Thanks, Lambe. I've seen a couple of questions asking about the materials, the presentation, the recording, and yes, we will be sharing this recording along with Lambe's presentation and the helpful documentation and the resources about how to submit all in your email after this session. So keep an eye on your email for that information. Lambe, could you remind us what that link at the very end of your presentation was? And possibly could you put it in the chat to share?
Sure, just give me a second while I retrieve that.
No problem.
I also saw that there's some questions in the chat, so we will get to those as soon as I
Yes, filtering
see.
through them right now. So as you find that link, Labe, could you just tell us, is there a limit to how many submissions an organization can submit if it's for multiple different projects?
Okay, so there isn't a limit to the number of applications that you submit, but it's just important to note that per round, just submit one application, but for subsequent rounds, you can still submit another application. Also, just to note that for organizations that have received the funding, for the lifetime of the GPF, you can only receive 2 grants per institution. So once you have received your second grant, you won't be able to apply again after that. So I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. And then there are a lot of questions about eligibility. Some are saying they work in a governmental oncology center that has help from local NGOs. There was also someone saying that they work for a private higher education institution in South Africa. So, how can people find out if they or their organization or their project is eligible?
That's a great question. So, for starters, we will share the link to the frequently asked questions because that also does include a section on eligibility. But for starters, if the institution is like a government department or something like that, they're eligible. If it's a non-governmental institution or organization, they can apply as well. The ones that we don't accept proposals from are for-profit organizations. So as long as it's an institution that is generating profit, then they're not eligible to apply for the funding. Um, and then the other thing is that so we have our focus countries, like I mentioned, which is uh, the World Bank classified low income and lower middle income countries. But if the country is not based, is not one of those, it's not classified as that. The only way that you'd be able to apply for the funding is if the project's implementation is going to be, after the project is implemented, if the benefits of the project are felt in these focus communities, then you would still be able to possibly get the grant, depending on how it feeds into the GPF's objectives.
Thanks, Lambe. And I just shared both the general link that Lambe shared to information about the program and the fund, and I've also shared the FAQ in the chat for everyone. Um, Another eligibility question, but could you provide a high level summary of what kind of projects that are funded and that are not funded?
Sure. So I think also another link that would be helpful to share is, for people on the call to read about some of the projects that we have funded. But we've had some of the technical integration grants have been to improve the login process for DSpace Chris, which is a widely used system. It's been seen to be working for the global south. There's so many institutions that are using it. Also, we have a current project that's running that is to improve processes within DSpace. So there's the DSpace Chris project. There's also now the DSpace project. So these are some of the um, technical integration grants that have been granted, that have received the funding from us. But some of the community development grants have been in different parts of Africa and Asia. But a very big aspect of it has been that they've been training of trainers just to increase the awareness of orchid. Also, like I said, they've had multiplier effects in the sense that, even with a bit of funding, they're able to do so much and increase their awareness. And even the results that we get after that are that there's an increase in the number of ORCID registered active users in a year. And we can see these numbers increasing even as the projects are being implemented. So we can see there's a direct correlation from what is being put in and what is coming out, and the impact that these projects are having in the different focus communities. Yeah.
That makes sense. But it's specifically the funds are meant to go towards projects that have to do with Orchid, correct?
Absolutely. So we do, unfortunately, we have received proposals where, people are trying to build an old people's home or to do something related to agriculture. So they might be great projects, but they don't fit in with what we're trying to do as an organization. So we understand that you have great ideas, but that doesn't fit into what we're trying to do with the specific objectives of this particular fund.
Great, thanks, Lambe. And there's lots of information about eligibility and different types of projects, and even examples of projects that have been funded in that first link that I shared in the chat. Could you just talk a little bit more about what exactly a technical integration grant is?
Sure. So these grants are meant to increase the sorry to improve the different processes that are currently being used for um, any systems that are linked to ORCID. So like the examples that I gave of DSpace and DSpace Chris, and also there's another project that's on the Vivo platform. So for these are different systems that are linked to ORCID, right? And um, a lot of people in our focus communities are using these different platforms. So a technical integration grant can be something that you apply for so that you can improve those processes or make it easier for people to work with these different systems. So I'm in Zambia, and I know that there's some institutions that use DSpace, but you find that the person who is employed to handle DSpace or all the infrastructure, the research infrastructure, isn't able to do that because they don't have the technical know-how. So the technical integration grant could even be to have maybe even just a training for someone to understand how to use those systems better, or it could be to build those systems in a particular space so that you can then connect ORCID to the different researchers who are based in Zambia, as an example. So basically, the technical integration grants are supposed to help the the part that comes with the research infrastructure. So this could be information, it could be how to plug in these all the different repositories to ORCID and connecting all these different pieces together.
Thanks, Lambe. That's really helpful. Um, There's another question in here asking, do you have any templates or examples of successful proposals? And is there a mentorship available for first-time applicants?
That's an interesting question. So what we do have in terms of the previous awardees, we've done blogs just to talk about their different projects. And lately we've even had like little snippets, little video shorts that have been shared on our social media. So that is where you can read about the different projects that are being implemented. So I know that the links are all shared within the presentation. But other than that, in terms of mentorship, we do not have mentorship. What we do have is the frequently asked questions. And if there are any specific questions that are not clear, if it's related to the platform, the Proposal Central platform, then you can reach out to um, the the email address that I shared. I'll share it in the chat as well. But if it's something that is related to the project and it has not been answered within the frequently asked questions, then it's a question that you can direct to me. My email address is also on the it's also included in there. So in terms of mentorship, we don't have that, but you do have access to the previous projects that we have and also the current projects that are running.
Thanks, Lambe. And I've just shared a link in the chat to one of the LinkedIn posts that you mentioned that is a brief video from Zimbabwe University Libraries Consortium that details their project from the fifth round of the fund. So go ahead, check out that link after the session. And then if you follow us on LinkedIn, you'll see some of the other posts that we made and videos about these other projects. Um, Lambe, can you let us know how, what is the grant amount available per project?
So you can apply for any funding up to 20,000 US dollars. So that's the amount that we grant to each specific grantee. It could be much less than that, but what matters is that the ceiling of the funding is 20,000 US dollars. So anything below that.
Good to know. We do still have time for questions, so encourage anyone who's got lingering questions to submit them to the Q&A. Lambe, can you tell us a little bit about who reviews the applications?
Sure. So we have, well, all our reviewers are currently internal. So we have a group of very helpful reviewers who are experts in both the technical aspect of things and some that are working in the different regions that we're trying to target. And so as a result, we have a very rich and diverse group of people who are able to um, give very helpful feedback about how relevant a specific project would be in a different place because they have information, firsthand information on what is happening in those different countries and also in different focus communities. So those are the people that review the applications. And also we always have two different people reading each application, and we try to make sure that we cut out potential biases by making sure that we have different pairs of reviewers looking at um, different applications.
Great, thank you. And then, how many grant cycles do we have per year?
So in each year we have two grant cycles. So after this one is done on the 24th of May, we will have one more later in the year and we'll be done for this year. So that's two grant cycles every year.
Yep. And we try to keep the community aware of these by sharing on social media. If you are an Orchid member, we tend to post it in our member newsletter. So we try to keep everybody aware of when the next cycle is coming up. When will those who have submitted applications begin hearing the results?
So the month of June will probably the month of the review period. It does take quite a bit of time because we don't want to rush perfection. I'm kidding. We don't want to rush the process. But so in early July, people should start getting feedback on whether they've made it to whether that they're finalists, whether they almost made it because they were so great, but there were, too many winners or, too many great applications, and it becomes a bit difficult. But by early July, they should be able to start receiving feedback on their applications.
And then do you have an idea of when awards would start being received by awardees?
So even after the initial congratulations email, there is a due diligence process that needs to be done. So at this stage, we need to delve deeper into the organization's, what it's about, where it's registered, which people are linked to the organization, just so we can make sure we protect both, the institution and also protect ourselves. So after the due diligence process, um, once all of that is done, we then get into the grant agreement signing. That part doesn't actually take long. So the two different processes that require quite a bit of time are the actual reviewing process because of the different stages within there, and then also the second part, which is the due diligence stage. So in terms of, when the grants are actually signed and you're ready to get started, that would probably be around August 2025. So the whole process is, there's too many moving parts and it's not something that can be rushed. So we do encourage people to be patient because we are working behind the scenes, even though it might not seem that way. Yeah.
Sounds good. And then are there any commitments that awardees have to agree to beyond the sustainability of their project and the due diligence? Like, are there meetings they have to attend or regular check-ins or reports they need to submit?
Absolutely. So we have monthly check-ins for all the grantees. So the grantees meet as a group and we share achievements, any challenges that may have been met, any questions that they might have. I'm the person, the contact person for all the grantees. So I run these meetings and we just, there's so many shared stories and there's a lot of rich conversation that goes on. So this is also a great space for, peer-to-peer learning for the different grantees. Apart from the monthly meetings, we also have a midterm check-in. So this one is, it's more than just me who's coming in for the check-in. We also have some of our staff members and also the GPF advisory committee. Some people from the GPF advisory committee are in the check-in as well. And then at the end of the project, there's another meeting just to share results that have been, you know, noticed during the grant period, during the implementation period. And after the 12-month period, there's an extra month for reporting, during which we expect a narrative and financial report. Guidelines are shared on how to do these reports. And yeah, that is, a month after the completion of the project, we expect those. And also just to note that after the signing of the grant agreement, 80% of the fund is dispersed. And the other 20% is only received after the final financial and narrative reports. So aside from the different reporting the monthly check-ins, we also expect high levels of interaction with the grantees. We expect them to be responsive to emails and, if they use Slack, that as well. And to just, really engage, because what we're trying to do is to build a community of practice. So this can only happen if we have members of the community coming in to show, to willingly work with Orchid and also to work with partners from different parts of the world. And yeah, also just engaging with our communications project, because we're trying to run more, to do more blogs, to share more progress and stories of what is happening with the GPF. So just that willingness to engage with our communications program is also another expectation that we do have. Yeah, so that's just a bit about the expectations from the grantees.
And it's nice to see that over the last few years, the small community that we have built and the stories that we have been able to share. So I think it must be a really great community to be a part of. We do still have time for questions, and we just got another one, so we'll stay on as long as people have questions. So please submit whatever you have. This next question is, does the accepted proposal need to meet a specific timeline in order to comply with the program's grant requirements?
So in terms of the implementation, if they can correct me if I misunderstood the question, but so each project is slated to be done in 12 months. So if you are nearing the end of the 12 months and you see that it's not practical, maybe you need a bit more time, all you need to do is communicate with me and explain that you need a no cost extension due to whatever reasons. And that's something that we're able to do. Also looking at how the project has been moving, because if nothing has happened in 12 months and suddenly you ask for no cost extension, obviously that would raise some flags. But if you've been implementing the project and you realize that you just need a bit more time, that's something that we can do.
It's good to know. Is there a template to follow when applying for the grant?
So we do have the questions. Can you hear the noise in my background?
No.
Okay, perfect. So we do have the questions, except they're not shared. But once you start the application, you will be able to see the different sections. And under the project narrative, that's where you're able to see the different questions that are asked. So they're very specific questions. It's not a long process to follow, but it's all the questions are there. So once you create your profile, you'll be able to see the questions that would need to be answered.
And then as people are completing their applications, are they able to save and come back to it later, or does it need to be all done at one time?
You can definitely just save it and come back to it after, when you sometimes you get writer's block, right? So you can start your application and then you can't think of how to frame a certain answer. You could just make sure you save what you have so far, and then you can just come back to it later and just complete that process.
Awesome. Well, I'll leave it open for just another minute to see if we get any other questions. In the meantime, I'm going to share another link in the chat, inviting everyone to check out our upcoming events. And if you've missed any other events, you can check out our on demand page. Last year, we actually ran 2 sessions featuring awardees from the program. One fully in French and the other featuring 3 other projects. So feel free to check those out to learn a little bit more. Another question that we've got is how many projects did you support last year? And do you have an average of the numbers of the projects that you are going to support in the MENA region?
That is a great question. So last year um I think it was 10 or 11. So what happens is that per grant cycle, we will give about 5 grants. There are times where after we've selected the five highest scoring applications, maybe there's still a bit in the budget and there's another great project that probably almost made it but didn't quite make it. Then we can add another sixth one. So sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 6. Um, so it depends, but per year, sorry, that's 5 or 6 per cycle. So what happens is that then per year we will have about 10 projects or 11 projects. And then in terms of the average number of projects in the MENA region, no, we don't have an average number. So what we do is that as the applications come in, once they go through the different stages of the review process, that is when we select the ones that are going to make it through to the next round. So we don't really have like a certain number of projects that we're planning on supporting. So it really depends on the you know the quality of the projects that are coming in.
Thanks, Lambe. Could you remind us one last time when the application submission closes?
So the call for applications will close on the 24th of May. So you still have a few days. So please do work on those applications, and we look forward to reading them.
And if folks have any questions, who can they reach out to?
So it depends if it's questions that have not been answered in the frequently asked questions, and it's something to do with the grant project itself, please reach out to me at grants@orchid.org. Or if it's a technical situation, then please reach out to the Proposal Central team. I'm not sure. I don't think I shared but the email address is within the presentation. So it's pcsupport@altum.com. And so those are the two different, depending on the situation that you have, please reach out for support, and we will be sure to support you the best way we can.
Thanks, Lambe. I want to share that last email address in the chat. Was it at altum.com or altum.org?
I should check that because I do not give you wrong information. Just give me a second. But it is on the slides that we will share.
Yes, it is on the slides that we'll share. We are getting a
Oh,
couple more questions, so once we get this email address solved, I'll ask those.
My computer has decided not to take part in this. I
That's
can't
okay.
believe.
You and I will
But
connect after, and we'll be sure
okay.
to include the contact emails in the follow-up email that everyone will receive. Um, a couple of specific questions about technical integration grants. The first one being, are grants for technical integration including application development or only to integrate apps with Orchid?
Well, so it depends on the nature of the app. What are you trying to do with your app? So if it's something that is feeding into the objectives, once again, I'll direct you to the objectives of the two different grant programs. So if that is related to if it's feeding into the GPF objectives, then it's something that would be eligible. But once again, is you have to go back to whether the institution that is applying is a for-profit, because if that's the case, it will not be able to get the grant. But if it's non-profit making, or it's a government entity and it's meeting all those eligibility criteria, then you can go and take a look at the fund objectives. You go and see what we would be funding under the technical integration grants. And if it fits into that, then please do go ahead and apply for the grant.
And as an example, please correct me if I'm wrong, Lambe. When DSpace Chris had an award granted, DSpace Chris is already connected with Orchid, correct? So it was more about enhancing the functionality there, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
So that's an example of that. And then another technical question. Do you give access to the Orchid API with accepted proposals who need to integrate with Orchid's local infrastructure?
No, so that is a separate situation, because that is a membership conversation, which is completely separate from the GPF. So for the membership API, that would only be a part of it would be something that comes as being a member of Orchid. So um that's not something that you would be able to do, unfortunately.
But you would have access like anybody would to the public API.
Exactly. So that if it's the public API, then you already have access to it, even if you're not a grantee of the GPF. But for the membership API, that is a completely separate conversation.
Yep. One we're happy to have with you if you'd like to talk about it. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm not seeing any other questions, but we'll give it just another minute or two. Lambe, before we end the session, what is one key takeaway you hope everyone listening comes away with? Fortunately, I think we may have lost Lambe. I'll give her just a few seconds. All right. I think Lambe has lost her internet connection, which is all right. Oh, there's Lambe.
I'm back. Electricity electricity just cut off, so my internet's not great anymore. So sorry about that.
No worries. We'll just end with one final question. Any final key takeaways that you would like attendees to leave with today?
Yes, I would say that please make sure you go through the eligibility criteria. It's really great if you can strengthen your application before you even make the application. So if you show us how your project is really feeding into those main objectives, that really strengthens it. Because sometimes institutions will have such great ideas, but they don't put them across in a way that it's clear how it's feeding into the bigger objective of what we're trying to do with the GPF. So please make sure that you take a look at those objectives and align your projects to that, and show us your amazing work. We know that there's amazing work that's happening already. So please just make sure that you're showing us what you're doing and how that is connected to the objectives of the GPF.
Sounds great. Thank you, Lambe. Everyone, please keep an eye on your emails. You should be receiving an email in the next 24 hours that will include this recording, Lambe's presentation. Will also include that step-by-step guide on how to submit your application, and all of the helpful links that we've shared today will also be included. So please keep an eye on your email. But I want to thank Lambe for joining us today to giving us this presentation so we all know how to submit our applications by what day, Lambe?
24th May. Looking forward to
Yes.
receiving your applications.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.